Chapter 2 A Nervous Robber. Because my father was constantly on the move and not able to spend much time at home, my grandmother became an important person for me and for the Christian groups in the small surrounding villages. She was a small, self-assured woman. Working in the fields had made her bent, but her feet still faithfully carried her over many kilometers. And she went out most days. I loved her because she made time for me and had filled my heart with the love of God. I went out with her almost every day. Her name was Yun King Wu, but I called her Nai Nai, which is what paternal grandmothers are called in our area. She took me with her to secret meetings with other Christians. What with singing, praying, and intensive Bible study, we often wouldn't stop before twilight to return to our village. Then we had to walk through dark, spine-chilling woods, over wide, storm-racked fields, or along the river with its secretive bends and its eerie gurgling. I imagined an evil spirit might emerge at any moment from behind that gnarled old tree, from out of those swampy ditches behind the rice fields, or from behind a ruined box grave. In the river's mutterings I heard threatening messages. You need to know that our village was characterized by a fear of evil spirits and doom-laden figures. No one would go past the cemetery at night, and even during the day there was always an undefined air of anxiety in the village. The whole of nature was filled with spirits, and not just benevolent ones, or so we believed. So it might well be true that the hollow trees were the dwelling places of terrible beings that ate up children and cut the hearts out of their living bodies. The Christians knew full well that this was all just superstition, but the dread of demons and evil gods ran deep in all the inhabitants of our village, and it was nourished by many mysterious incidents and accidents. When I clasped Nene's hand more firmly, she could feel my anxiety. Then she would tell me of God's protection and His faithfulness, that Jesus was bigger than all evil powers, and that we were surrounded by Him, as if by a protective wall. Her trust in the God of heaven was infectious, until I started once again in fear at the sound of a cracking branch. On one occasion, a robber lay in wait for us on a path through the woods, threatening to stab us to death unless we gave him money. But his voice sounded somewhat nervous, and he brandished his rice sickle rather clumsily. Nene was much calmer than he was. "Get out of the way! You won't get anything from us. We are poor people, and anyway we stand under the protection of our Grand Master, Jesus Christ." The robber seemed frightened. He looked around anxiously. Maybe he didn't know anything about Jesus Christ, or perhaps the word Grandmaster reminded him of an expert in Chinese martial arts. At any event, he sprang sideways into the bushes, tripped over a root, and fell flat in the mud. Though she had successfully chased off the robber, my grandmother ran home more quickly than usual. I could sense her relief as we reached the first houses of the village. For me, it was clear from that evening on that the name of Jesus had special power.